Hey everybody, welcome back to another Stone-Faced Reactions. I'm Theta, by myself, here for another Gundam 00F manga chapter. This time we're on Chapter 2, which is GN002 versus GNY002F. The most thrilling of chapter names. Alright, let's just go ahead and jump on into it then. We start with a refresher on where the world of Gundam 00 is. The year is 2307. We have a satellite solar generator system and 3 orbital elevators. On top of that, most of the world has united into 3 superpowers: the Union, USA, and the rest of North and South America. Some people would say USA is part of North America, and I'm not going to argue. The AEU, basically the European Union, bleh, the European Union, sorry, and then the Human Reform League, China, Russia, India, and everything in between. The interesting thing to note from the map is that Australia seems to have sided with the Union, while the Middle East, Africa, and a bunch of former Soviet bloc nations seemed to have remained independent. Again, assuming that's what the uncolored bits of the map mean. And of course, the page ends with a reminder that a new group has appeared to step in on any fighting going on across the globe. Next, we get a full page group shot showing the 4 main Gundams that Celestial Being has at its disposal, posting in front of their collective symbol in the background. The next panel is a spread reminding us of the things Scheinberg said during his speech and what the characters discussed over it. Celestial Being intervenes in all conflicts regardless of race, nation, or religion. Then goes on to coalesce some of the show's story together to reach the point that the remaining combatants of the world have joined together to stand up against Celestial Being. Let's see here. We then get a brief flash of each of the main characters from each of the represented nations mentioned before, listing how they are standing. Sorry, brain fart. Listing how they are standing to oppose the Gundams. The AU partnering with PMCs, which is funny as Celestial Being is referred to as a private military organization earlier, so it kind of makes them a little bit not different. The HRL and its super soldiers, and the Union with its special anti-Gundam investigation squad, all set up to try and capture the Gundams as we saw in the show middle to end first season. Let's see. Then we get caught up to where the show is at the point of this chapter, as Graham rushes out to encounter Setsuna, Flag versus Gundam. Kind of funny that they refer to it as an American flag here, and not a Union flag. So, I guess that would be confusing, terminology-wise. Just thought I'm having at the moment here. Union flag would be kind of like the Union Jack, which would be then AU. So I guess they kind of have to refer to it as some sort of different flag. But anyway, that's where we are. That we then return back to Angel's control room with a bunch of readouts being displayed on the screen. Echo comments that Graham's flag has insane specs. But in the background, Fawn is yawning with disinterest. This sets Echo off, and he begins ranting that analyzing Celestial Beings' mission data is their job, and that he can get out of it. Get out if he's not willing to do the work. Fawn rattles his restraints and coyly remarks about taking the cuffs off then. Uh, Echo just responds that it's out of the question. Echo goes back to praising Graham's flag as it may become a formidable enemy to Angel in the future, so Fawn should research it thoroughly. Fawn swipes the remote to display from Echo. Now, I I thought about this for actually a bit, because I actually go forwards through the chapters and I went back again, and there only appears to be one remote. So it means that Fawn, restrained to that thing that he sits on all the time, and with cuffs on, was still fast enough to get the remote from Echo, which does not play well to trying to show off any of Echo's strengths. But he uses the remote to bring up more readouts about the flight, launching into his own breakdown of events and what it meant for the specs of the weaponry being used. Essentially, that has low firepower in exchange for increased rates of fire. Echo goes on in disbelief that anyone could determine shell velocities with just the naked eye. Fawn goes back to calling him old, which never makes sense to me because Echo looks like. I was about to say the youngest one in the room, but they all look incredibly old except for Bella Sorry, Chal. I still, in my mind, I remember her as Bella. And Chal obviously looks old because she's got battle experience, basically, on the body, so. I don't know. The old thing is just weird to me. He clearly looks like a kid and he acts like a kid. Let's see. Fawn scolds him for not paying attention to what's in front of him, bragging that no matter what, he always watches what's in front of him. He goes back into his Dark Schneider mode again, proclaiming that he can see anything in the world. Giving ground on the weapon argument, Echo raises the point that the mobile suit is still twice the speed of a normal flag, and how it cannot be dismissed as harmless. This causes Fawn another bout of laughter, launching into another explanation of what is going on. He points out that the flag in question has both an enlarged flight unit and decreased armor to make it extremely lightweight, allowing it such a speed increase. Continuing his supposition in the next panel, Fawn also determines that it is likely carrying far less fuel than normal. He then praises Setsuna's maneuver for diving underwater, as if all the things he said were true, then Graham wouldn't be able to chase after him into the water, nor would he be able to have enough fuel to keep following him in the air. I mean, I believe when we watched the episode, I was still in a kind of a rant aspect of why don't people ever chase one another, or why do they always just let someone go the moment they run away? So I appreciate the explanation aspect coming out of this. Adding on to the insults, Fawn baits Echo by indicating that he was Celestial Being's worst student, that even the normal people in Celestial Being were better than him. And in an attempt to defend himself, Echo states that Gundams don't perform well underwater, and since there is no telling what might have been down there, that he'd never dare approach the water himself. It's in the midst of this braggadocio that Chal walks in, stating his last statement is what they are going to find out. Chal and the still unnamed girl walk into the room, declaring that there is a new mission. Fawn says it's going to be nice to finally get away from the study sessions, to which Echo reacts with his typical nervous excitement, pointing out that no one said Fawn would be the one going, which is where Fawn executes on his previous setup, asking if they heard how Echo said he'd never touch water in a Gundam. Again, I do love the back and forth between the OOF group. It is more fun than the main group, because the main group is always angst. Angst all the time. Let's see. Chal seems tired of the nonsense in the next panel, even as Echo tries to defend himself. She then orders Fawn to sortie in the Saddlesud F. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and unfortunately I have some movie reference in the back of my head I can't quite remember, where they have to go to the Saddle Suds or something. So I'm just reading that now as Saddle Sud. Let's see. She then orders Fawn to sortie. To Echo's confusion and Fawn's mirth, Saddle Sud, by the way, is the official name of Beta Aquarii in the constellation of Aquarius, and as such has multiple meanings, given that it's been seen by multiple civilizations throughout history. Among them is Luck of Lux, the first star of emptiness, and the star of mighty destiny. No idea what the F stands for, other than the fact that this series is OOF. So maybe despite the fact that Fawn was all about a different Gundam in the first chapter, that the Saddlesud F is going to be his Gundam from here on out. I don't know. Let's see. We move down now in Earth coastline / cliff face, where Lock-On Stratos is posted up in the Gundam Dynames Torpedo. We get the crashing waves, see that he's pointed out towards the water, but otherwise all we get is that the mission is started. Let's see. At the same time, we have Fawn and the Saddlesud apparently standing at the bottom of that cliffside underwater on standby. For a lot of these panels, we just get, like, I don't know, landscape. Landscape, but empty. It's weird. The next page flashes us back to a mission briefing about what is going on in those last two panels. Fawn is on a support mission for Lock-On at the HRL's elevator Pillar of Heaven, which they've graciously placed off the coast of Eurasia. I just wanted to highlight that as if you're going to put a location anywhere on Earth, one of the most vague places you could say would be off the coast of Eurasia. I mean, check that on a map. Check the broad spectrum of anywhere that could be, and you'll see what I mean. Anyways, Shaw says that the elevator is the HRL's Achilles heel, that it's been targeted by terrorists numerous times, and that there is a considerable amount of military equipment stored there. A celestial being has been operating in the area for weeks already, intervening between the HRL and the terrorists with the intent to force both sides to an armistice. Additionally, this is seen as a test of celestial beings' operations. For some reason, the unnamed girl is also depicted in this panel, staring at the reader. Still no clue what she's about. She's giving off, I can't want to call her Dorothy because we joked about that in the show reaction. Not Dorothy. God, the fact that she's changed her name now where we're at in season 2 is really messing me up. The super soldier girl who had her mind messed with, she's really giving me those vibes. The intent of Celestial Being's mission here is evidently to snipe underwater targets from the surface. Veda predicts that due to the often on-again nature of the interventions, that there is a high chance of one side developing a way to oppose this sort of attack, and I assume one side means the terrorists or the HRL. Obviously, Celestial Being is not going to evade itself. So Angel is going in to provide support for Lock-On in case of those unforeseen situations. And here we get the actual start of the mission as Hanyo releases Fawn's handcuffs, and just like last time, Fawn goes manic with delight at being freed, shouting for Lock-On to show me what you've got. Let's see. In the next page, we see Lock-On talking about the HRL hiding something in the water. The only thing I can think of it being is the suit shown in season 2 of the show. But to the best of my knowledge, I thought that was funded by Louise after the incident that killed her family. I guess it's entirely possible that her family funded weapons development before they were all killed. That she comes from a line of Gundam Tony Starks, as you will. But that assumes all these things are connected, and I could still be wrong on that. Lock-on snipes at the target, and we see what I assume to be the object speeding up in the last panel. It's hard to make out as the thing is shadowed in its every appearance. Lock-on is shocked when his torpedo bullet thing misses its target, and his Haru notes that the shadow layer around the target is actually a highly concentrated jamming substance. Furthermore, they are no longer able to detect the enemy. Lock-on self-congratulates the enemy for already finding a way to deal with him, then suggests that Haru tries raising his equipment sensitivity, to no avail. Acknowledging that his mission is no longer a success, Lock-on concludes that his Gundam isn't adequate for the job, and that he should leave before ground forces start arriving. The art among these panels is very minimalist, as I mentioned before, to the point of it being confusing sometimes trying to figure out what is being indicated to us. For instance, the second panel on this page, is that a plane spying on them? Is there something in the water getting away? Is that Celestial Being's ship in space and he's talking to it? It's hard to tell. Meanwhile, on the bottom of the ocean, Fawn is just standing around monologuing to himself. Chastising Lock-on for wanting to leave, especially before ever seeing him, then he should just kill himself. Because, Fawn is a man of extremes, apparently. Shouting, in the end, that he is going to change the world himself, as per previous chapter. Hanyo seems to silently indicate something to Fawn over the first 3 panels, flapping its little Nico ears at him. Whatever is being indicated causes Fawn a chuckle and a determination to give Lock-on another chance by lending him their power. Continuing on with the themes from earlier in the chapter, that Fawn declares he can see everything. He then shouts that Saldaslud F is a Gundam designed specifically for detecting enemies. Let's see. The first panel is another minimalist view of the ocean. Just a barren, hilly plain with no fish to be seen in the distance. Saldaslud then begins combining its sensor units in its head into a single point, as Fawn declares that they haven't got a chance, telling Hanyo to patch their information into Lock-on's Haru via the Veda connection that they all use. We then see some visual representation of the information being transmitted to Lock-on's Haru, as it says, "They've found the enemy." We do see the silhouette of the thing in the water, with all the clarity of a Loch Ness monster photo. Again, it's very weird sometimes the choices made in the art direction in this manga. Lock-on asks how they managed to do it, but moves on to congratulate the Haru and re-equipping its sniper rifle in order to shoot it down, or I guess shoot down at it. It's all really depend on what your point of view is here. We get another view of the cliffside as Lock-on takes the shot, the torpedo bullet whizzing into the water and slamming into the target with a large explosion. We see the explosion from the surface, with the HRL elevator in the distance as both teams announce a mission complete status at the same time. Fawn mocks Lock-on from his cockpit, clapping and saying he can do it if he tries. Then he says, "Be a good boy, let me have my fun," which I assumed was still directed at Lock-on. But in the next panel, Fawn goes into hysterics, laughing like crazy as Hanyo splits open from the middle, showing glowing lights from the darkness inside of it. So, No clue if his last line was towards Locon, to himself, or directed at whatever Hanyo is. New mystery. Overall, I enjoyed this chapter. It kind of implied that the main celestial being team is being supported without their knowledge, and that not all of their deeds are actually their own. Like they might be some very elaborately orchestrated patsies with a bunch of handlers running around, making sure that they accomplish whatever task is at hand. Knowing what I think about the Gundam Meisters already, this is just a funny turn for me that sheds a comedic light on their Season 1 bumblings. I still really prefer the team dynamic that is going on amongst the Angel side. Fawn and Echo riff off of one another fairly well. It almost seems like a sibling dynamic if one of them wasn't, locked up like a prisoner and the other one was trying to lord it over them. Echo continues to be the fall guy to make Fawn look good, but so far that hasn't been detrimental to the story. Going forwards, I would like to know what's going on with that little girl, and I expect something is about to be revealed in the terms of Hanyo and Fawn. But yeah, that has been our second chapter of Gundam 00F. I'm enjoying it so far, and if so long as it brings me more into the world of Gundam 00, can't be bad. But thank you for joining me again. This has been Theta for Stone-Faced Reactions. Have a good day.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stone-Faced Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?